Guys. So, this is a common question, and it comes up pretty frequently from time to time. But during like King of Icefield, Alliance Showdown, any of these events, I've always told people that if you want to get, really good construction speed, that what you want to do is you want to basically work on your construction heroes. So, like, for example, say we get Zenmen, right? One thing that a lot of people don't fully understand is the fact that when this is actually activated, once it's upgraded, it's already applied. And so you can actually go over and check here pretty easy. All you got to do is basically, so like, for example, I'm going to go upgrade my base, right? So you go to your chief house. You want to activate something called double time, and that's going to give you 20% on top of what you have. And then you can also go to your pets, and if you've got builder's aid, you can also get, a fair bit from the construction speed on that. Put the two together, and then you can go and upgrade. And then you're going to get all those extra bonuses. Now, again, going back to how do I know if this is being adjusted, is you just scroll down. You have to hit your literal might, right? Or your power, for that matter. And if you scroll down, you'll notice that there's construction speed. So like right now it's at 101. So that amounts almost, in my case, there's 12% from builder's aid. There's another 20 coming from double time. So I'm looking at almost an additional 32% off of the 101 that I have. And so when I activate it, I'll have somewhere close to 133% in terms of construction speed. And then I can run the upgrade. And it will save a fair bit on the cost of time, because here it's 7 days, and believe me, 30% really does add up. So you don't want to get in a hurry upgrading. Now, I mean, yes, during events, especially like King of Icefield, Alliance Showdown, and others, you're going to be incentivized to do this within a certain time limit. But I wouldn't stress yourself out trying to rush, because it's not like you won't have this event all over again. And the loot and the rewards doesn't justify rushing. So I stress that. Don't make that mistake, because a lot of people do. My second tip for the day, I've had some people that were kind of mingling around the question of, okay, if I go into arena, shouldn't I be doing 5 heroes instead of 3 for their gear? My answer to this has always been, I like having 3 decent sets. So I have 1 for infantry, 1 for range, and 1 for my lancers. I don't have a 4th set for another infantry, another range, or another lancer. I don't have another set for that 5th hero either. And yet, even though I've got that, right, I can go into arena and with very little problem, okay, I can pick anybody in the top 100 easy. Like, it's really not necessary. I stress this because I feel like a lot of people also don't realize you can just retreat like that. I mean, you don't have to watch this. You really don't. Okay, but part of the reason why I can do this is because those heroes are upgraded. And yes, that's kind of what I'm stressing here is I think having a really decent hero is going to be better for you in the PvP element of the game. But obviously, if you're going to get to the nitty-gritty of it, yes, in arena, it's more advantageous to have 5 heroes, but almost nobody is going to find themselves needing that. So there's just no reason to. Like, you really don't need to do that. And if the rewards are what you're after, then getting up in the top 100 is relatively easy for most people. Now, free-to-play, yeah, it's a little bit more of a struggle, but, again, it's all about whatever perspective you're going into this with. Now, the third thing that I had that came up was kind of related to, so like right now we have kind of the drawback of Lucky Wheel. And something that I've been doing to not spend on VIP is I actually unlock VIP time with 10,000 gems, and I save my gems. And the reason for that is because you want the extra hero shards in the books. You don't want to neglect this, because obviously the VIP benefits are all going to be very good for you in the long term. So I always like to get my VIP benefits and save my gems for that reason. And the other thing I also save is I also save epic recruitment and advanced recruitment for similar reasons, because you can use these during like Vision of the Dawn, for example, and you can get rewards that way. So there's not really any sense in doing that. For enlistment office, if you're like me and you get zeroed, you want to make sure you're going around gathering. And if you can, if you're an alliance leader and you're somebody in your guild, this is kind of the third tip, but what you should do is build banners and then have somebody send one troop to those banners. Now, the benefit of doing this is you're going to get loyalty doing it. And because it's so slow, you have the benefit of knowing that you're going to get the maximum amount of loyalty you can possible for the loyalty rate without necessarily collecting the resources, which you, if you don't already have a fairly decent stash, like for example mine, I've got a fairly decent sized stash. If you don't, you probably ought to resource gather first, but once you get a fairly large stash, then you really shouldn't worry about it too much. And really about the only time you ever need to worry about resources and gathering really is during like Brother in Arms, but otherwise, you know, SVS would be the only other time, but otherwise in general you should be free to gather in most states without a whole lot of concern. I guess my third tip is make sure to go check your dock from time to time, and do your tree of life. And more importantly, don't get in the habit of like buying the same item like 3 times and then putting it on the ground. I've seen people do this. You're not giving yourself 1% defense 3 times in a row. You're wasting. Because what you need to do is, you've got the right idea. You got to buy 3 at the same time, but you have to upgrade it and use that slot to upgrade the actual building to get the stats. There's no gain in actually like having multiple copies of the same building in your island. So don't make that mistake. I've seen people make that mistake. I don't know why they do. I guess for my fourth tip, and this is something that I've kind of learned over time, is if you don't plan on like getting a ton of fire crystals, don't even consider T11 an option. It's wickedly high expensive to go down the T11 route. You should actually invest that into the furnace instead. Over time, you'll actually find that I'm right, and you'll actually find yourself benefiting from having a higher furnace level than you will having T11. Because T11 is not only expensive to maintain, it's also hard to achieve and really get. So if you want my 2 cents, don't sweat it. And obviously, if you are not yet in the stage where you even have fire crystals yet, then don't sweat it. Like you got time. Just make sure to start hoarding your fire crystals and don't use them on anything but your furnace, if you want my honest opinion. Other than that, that is really about the 4 tips that I have. I don't really have a 5th tip, I guess, because today is just kind of one of those days. But I guess my only other tip would be is that, you know, if you want like, you know, some kind of mantra behind how you can win like Alliance Showdown, for example, or any other event, I would say consistency and saving is going to be a large part of it. You know, I mean, having saved stuff over several server wipes, and by wipes I mean they're SVS, but that's what I'd like to call them now. It's like every SVS is a server wipe, so if you don't shield, well, guess what? You're going to get wiped. But you know, if you save, you can really turn it around and use it to your advantage without really having to spend. And I think a lot of people do kind of get in the idea that they have to spend to keep up, and you really don't. Like, you just kind of sit back, enjoy the game, have fun. But hopefully that advice was helpful for you guys, and thank you guys for watching.